Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to dive into a powerful and necessary conversation: how self-esteem shapes the way our youth build their relationships. And that's relationship with friends, with family, with romantic partners, and even with themselves. So the knowledge that we will get here, to me, is going to help us guide them with wisdom and compassion, and with tools that they can carry with them for life. So first, let's talk about how healthy self-esteem or high self-esteem will lead to healthy relationships. So when a young person has healthy self-esteem, it shows in how they treat themselves and how they allow others to treat them. And that's not all the time, but here's what that could look like. It could look like they set up healthy boundaries, so they know how to say no without guilt and yes without pressure. So they're like very assertive in their behavior. They protect their peace and they're not afraid to stand up for themselves. So like, I love you, but I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. You know, they might have that type of attitude, which is not bad. They may communicate confidently, which means they'll speak clearly about their feelings, their needs, their thoughts, and they believe that their voice matters. Not only do they believe their voice matters, but they'll use their voice. And also, they recognize red flags early. They don't ignore or excuse toxic behavior, because if something feels wrong, they trust their gut and they take action on that wrong feeling. So also, they choose relationships that are mutual. So what they do is they seek out balanced, respectful connections and not one-sided ones. They want real friendships. They want real relationships that are built on trust, kindness, and safety. I mean, we all want that, really. And they can walk away from toxicity. They don't stay in places or with people who harm their peace. They know that letting go is sometimes the healthiest choice, and they don't feel bad about it. So basically what I'm saying is, high self-esteem empowers youth to guard their peace, to honor their voice, and connect with people who respect their value. And this may not be all the time, but it's most of the time. So for low self-esteem, it can lead to unhealthy relationships. When a young person struggles with low self-esteem or low self-worth, it can show up in painful and dangerous ways. So a lot of times what we see is that they might depend on external validation, which means they're constantly seeking approval from others to feel worthy, to feel seen, to feel loved. And they don't feel good enough unless somebody else is telling them that they're good enough. They have to constantly be getting compliments. And they might tolerate mistreatment, which means verbal abuse, emotional manipulation, even physical abuse can become like the norm if it makes them feel needed or it makes them feel accepted. And sometimes they struggle to speak up. They keep things inside because they're afraid to upset others, because they don't want to seem like they're the problem, which a lot of times that's what they're told. And they're silent when they could be speaking their truth and when they're hurting. And they might stay in toxic situations because they think this is what I deserve, or at least somebody wants me. And sometimes they confuse toxic attention with love. And maybe they doubt their value. So like, they question their worth. They might question their appearance, their intelligence, even their right to exist in some spaces, like thinking, why am I even here? I don't belong here. And over time, these things can lead to codependency, poor boundaries, repeated cycles of unhealthy relationships, emotional numbness or depression, and a deep belief that love must hurt or come with pain. But here's the truth about all of that. Low self-esteem does not have to be permanent, and healing is possible. And as adults, we know that. So what we have to do is recognize that there's a problem, respond to the problem, and then we can get some results. So recognize plus respond equals results. Got me? So as like parents, mentors, teachers, community leaders, our role is very critical, because young people are watching us. They're listening, they're learning. We're their mirrors. We are the model that becomes their measure of normal. So what we have to make sure we do is talk openly about relationships, healthy and unhealthy. They both matter. And we have to give them the language and the tools to name exactly what they're feeling. So we have to create a safe space for them to be heard. And when we see high self-esteem in action, we have to celebrate it. And I know we talked about that before, but we also have to be brave enough and loving enough to redirect the kids when they're choosing the wrong types of relationships, and not with shame and not with judgment, but with truth, and give them support. And it should be in a kind way, not what you say, but how you say it. And this matters because we're trying to help youth build their self-esteem, and helping youth build self-esteem does more than prevent heartbreak. It sets the stage for a stronger life. Healthy self-esteem is going to lead to stronger relationships, safer decisions, better communication, higher school and career success, and a life rooted in self-worth, whether we know it or not, not people pleasing or pain. So we're not just teaching kids, we're shaping futures. That's the goal. So let's be the example of what respect, boundaries, and self-love look like. So what I think is that each and every child deserves love that feels like peace and not pain. They deserve connections that lift them and not relationships that break them. Let's keep showing up. Let's keep checking in. Let's keep speaking truth. And let's keep building bridges to healing. Because when we invest in our youth self-esteem, we're not just helping them in this moment. We're helping them build a future where they know their worth and they won't settle for anything less. I'm so thankful that you're here. And I'm glad that we'll be working together to make a difference in the community. Have an amazing day.